and given an opportunity to test contestant number 4.
Sorry, could you please spell contestant number 3?
Kur, K-U-R, Nor, N-G-O-R.
Thank you.
Contestant number 4 will be Paul Hollander. Contestant number 5 will be Charles Halloran. Contestant number 6 will be Sian Wirakun. Contestant number 7 will be Marlene Sinclair. I'll just repeat that quickly. Contestant number 1, Jodie Doncher. Contestant number 2, Victor Tan. Contestant number 3, Kur Nor. Contestant number 4, Paul Hollander. Contestant number 5, Charles Halloran. Contestant number 6, Sian Wirakun. And contestant number 7, Marlene Sinclair. Our Chief Judge today is Kevin Broughton. Please thank him for all the time he has put into organising. Timers, are we ready to proceed? Okay. We're not quite ready to proceed, so we'll have a pause to ensure that the online timer is ready. I can tell you that 3 of our contestants will be competing on Zoom, and they are Jodie Doncher, Kur Nor and Paul Hollander. So they are contestants 1, 3 and 4. As our first contestant will be an online contestant, we can't proceed until the timers are all ready and the contestant has had a chance to see those timing lights before starting.
Perhaps a song and dance.
Nola, would you like to come up?
Thank you. It's 15 all.
Zoom master, I'm wondering if we could have the contestant displayed behind us. Can we see the first contestant? Can we pin the first contestant? Spotlight the first contestant? Can we have the first contestant? Please accept our apologies. This is new for all of us to have a hybrid contest. It's a new venue. We've got some teething problems here that we will have sorted out, and I'm sure all the contests tomorrow will go very smoothly. But we're looking forward to starting our first contestant for the International Speech Contest very, very soon. Yeah, that's fine for me. It's for the online, for the in-person. Yes. Yes. Daryl.
You might have a bed. I have a cup of coffee.
Well, I'll run through some of the procedure while we're waiting for everyone to be ready. We're going to have 7 contestants today, as I've just announced. And after the 7th contestant, we will have some silence until the chief judge and the counters leave the room. Once they've left the room, there'll be a contestant interview. So we'll have all 7 contestants here. The 4 in-room contestants will be here at the front, and we'll have our 3 Zoom contestants on the screen behind us. We'll have a brief conversation with them all. Hopefully it will be fairly brief and the judges will complete their counting quickly. When the chief judge comes back with the result, we'll then be able to announce that to you. One of the questions I will be asking our contestants is, what club are you from and how long have you been a Toastmaster? So let me start by introducing myself while we wait for the setup to be complete. My name is Janine One and I am from the Kew Toastmasters Club. We're in Eastern Division. I'm delighted to see that we have at least 5 members of our club in the room today. Well, go Kew. And I can tell you that I have been a Toastmaster for just over 5 years. Now, I know that there are many of you here in the room who have been a Toastmaster for longer than that. And there are some here in the room who've been a Toastmaster for much less. So I'm thrilled for you because today you will have a chance to see some excellent speakers. I'm sure you will be inspired by them and you will rejoice in being able to be here with them and see speakers of such quality. Don't be unlucky. As I said, teething problems.
Good. The light.
Oh, our first contestant's going to be online, so we can't start.
It's a feed. It's just a feed.
So the lights.
The width.
Can you just run, could the online timer please run through the green, yellow and red timing lights?
Which is online time.
So online contestants, you will see a green light at 5 minutes, a yellow light at 6 minutes and a red light at 7 minutes. And the red light will stay on until you finish your speech. Did that look okay for the Zoom master? Yes.
Yay, yes.
Could we have our first contestant, please? It's going to be speed. That is our first contestant.
Yes, looking excellent.
Yourself on the screen, please.
Got the name right?
Jodie, do you have your video on?
Yeah, she does.
Yes, I do.
So we're just not seeing the right picture.
Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you, Jodie, but we're not
Okay.
seeing you yet here in the room. Thank you for waiting patiently. We'll be
You're welcome.
see the timing lights clearly just before.
I could see them before, yeah.
And okay.
And I'm guessing the District 73 Toastmaster Zoom will be on silent, right? Because I can hear that. So I'm guessing that would be put on silent when I'm talking.
We're just double checking that, Jodie, before you.
Okay, thank you. Wow, this is so interesting. I can see myself, seeing myself on the screen.
Jodie, the room is not on silent. Yes.
There we go.
You can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm just wanting to make sure it doesn't have feedback when I'm talking.
Okay. We will be checking that out now. The Chief Judge has just gone to chat with the Zoom master.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yes.
There's one that there is quite low.
For the contestant, you can't hear the contestant well. Okay. Can you ask the Zoom master if the contestant's volume can be increased to be heard at the back of the room?
I can start talking if that helps to hear how loud I am. Can you hear me now?
No, no, we can't hear you now.
Oh,
Don't you try again, please?
okay. Can you hear me now? Hello? Hello, hello. I really like your blue jacket, Janine. Hello, hello. Let me know if you want me to keep talking.
Yeah, so.
Hello.
What you think?
That's better.
All right, we think that we have improved the situation.
Keep talking so we can hear.
Just
Okay. I will just keep talking about how it's actually really cold right now and I am missing summer.
Okay, we are ready to start the contest with our contestant.
Okay.
Jodie, please tell us your name and whether you can see the timer.
So my name is Jodie Doncher and I can see the timer and I'm still not sure if the D73 one will be muted though, so I'll just double check that.
Can we just confirm that this sound from this room will be turned off once Jodie starts? obviously I'll need to introduce you and then the sound will need to be turned off.
Yes, exactly. Otherwise, I'll have no idea when to start speaking.
I need to introduce and then it's muted. Okay, so am I ready to introduce now? And then you will mute?
Exactly.
Okay.
It's a good experiment.
Okay,
The experiment.
all right.
All right, all good?
We are going to start.
Okay.
Our next contestant, Jodie Doncher, stepping into the cold. Stepping into the cold. Jodie Doncher.
Have you ever questioned your decisions? Contest chair, fellow decision makers, I was standing at a bus stop, freezing in one of the coldest places on the planet, London. It was wet, it was cold, and I was wet and cold. I'm from Australia. I like the heat. That morning, the sky was grey, but people's moods were greyer. And I was asking myself, why did I agree to go to Oxford? Why did I ditch work to see my friends? And why is it so cold here? Worry started to kick in. What if I don't have enough money? What if I don't have enough time? What if I'm doing the wrong thing? Suddenly, the bus doors opened and the bus driver nodded me in out of the cold. I'm saved. I pulled my frozen legs up the stairs. Ticket to Oxford, please. That'll be £10, miss. As I reached into my pocket, out of the corner of my eye, I saw another bus. Its sign read X90. Ever had something grab your attention without knowing why? Excuse me, does the X90 go to Oxford as well? With a series of short snorts, he replied, yes, costs £2 more, takes 20 minutes longer. Easy choice. Stay on the cheaper, quicker bus. But no, as if my morning wasn't crazy enough, I stepped off the cheaper, quicker bus back into the cold to wait for the X90. Was there a time that you ever questioned your sanity? This was wrong. I had no idea why something deep inside me was telling me to take the X90. And then it hit me. No, not a bus. A memory. Like a snowstorm blasting over my body, I flashed back to 5 years earlier, to a warm summer's morning in Australia, to the warmth of my mum's excitement as she picked up the phone to call her family back in China. You see, my mum was born in China and she moved to Australia after she met a good-looking backpacker, my dad. And then life happened and she didn't go back home for over 20 years. Why? Well, she worried that she didn't have enough money all the time, and the years slipped by. And now, 20 years later, and she was just 2 weeks away from finally seeing her mum and dad again, and she was bursting with excitement. I could hear her on the phone. Hello? Ni hao ma? And then she let out the most horrendous scream I've ever heard. 20 years 1,040 weeks. And just 2 weeks before she'd finally see her mum and dad again, her dad died. In the weeks and years that followed, regret followed her like a shadow. Mum would often look at me and say, Jodie, don't worry about the money. Don't worry about the time. Worry about doing what feels right. Worry about doing what feels right. I stopped daydreaming and looked at the X90. It didn't make sense. It seemed wrong, but it felt right. I felt like my mum was there, giving me a warm hug, reminding me to do what feels right. And guess what? The biggest difference between the first bus and the X90 wasn't the money or the time. The biggest difference was when I stepped out from the cold and onto the X90, the person I sat next to was Mr. Right. Yes, that crazy feeling that I followed on that freezing morning in London led me to the love of my life. And now Melvin and I have been together for over 7 years, and he just got his permanent residency in Australia. I guess meeting good-looking backpackers runs in my family. Isn't it crazy how often money and time can be the reason you might not do something? How easily they can silence that part of you that's calling you to step outside into the cold of the unknown. But what if that worry about money and time is holding you back from doing what's right for you? The right job, the right relationship, the right experience. It can be scary to step into the cold, to embrace the unknown. Well, not every X90 has Mr. Right on it, I know. But is there something in the corner of your life that's got your attention? Let's not let regret follow us like a shadow. Whatever your X90 is, my mum would say, don't worry about the money. Don't worry about the time. Worry about doing what feels right. Contest chair.
Minute silence for the judges. Thank you, timer. Please welcome our next contestant. We will do a sound and visual check before the introduction. Please announce your name and whether you can see the timer.
Hello, everyone. My name is Victor Tan, and I can see the timer. Yes. Lights are off. That's fine.
Victor Tan, 24/7. 24/7, Victor Tan.
When you grow up, I want you to be a lawyer, or maybe a doctor, even an accountant. Those were the words that my mother said to me because she wanted me to be financially successful in the future. But that was not what I wanted to do 24/7. Contest chair, fellow Toastmasters here and at home. Life is long. If you've ever sat in a boring meeting, you see the hands of the clock tick as slowly as possible. And you think, I'm going to have to put up with 5 more minutes of this? I'm going to lose it. And you wonder if there is something more in life, something more enjoyable. That's what I learned in high school. I remember sitting at the desk doing the math necessary to become a doctor, and I was terrible at it. I hated every minute of it because it wasn't what I wanted to do 24/7. The time would pass so slowly. I was wondering, am I going to be 17 forever? And then I found an interesting hobby. I learned how to juggle. I started slow with 1 ball, then 2, then 3. And it was magical. I thought this was it. This is what I want to do. I'm going to be a clown. But you can't be a clown with 3 balls. You have to upskill. You have to go big. And yet, I also realized being a clown is hard. It wasn't what I wanted to do 24/7. It was difficult to imagine throwing balls in the air in front of a bunch of children, seeing the time pass by slowly, and thinking this is all that there is in life. And realizing that I didn't really have a direction, I decided, let's give this doctor thing a try. Because some direction is better than no direction. And that was how I lived life for the next 10 years. Slowly moving, trying to find a job, coming to Australia because apparently finding a job as an Australian overseas is really difficult. Instead of becoming a doctor, I became a marketer. But plodding along, 1 step at a time, looking at the hands of the clock, tick slowly. It wasn't what I wanted to do. But given how hard it is to buy a house in Australia, I got to start somewhere. But I could see the time passing by and wondering, am I ever going to find out what it is that I want to do 24/7? Something that gets me out of bed. Something that makes me excited for the next day. Because that was 27 years that I looked at that clock and I realized how empty it all was because nothing had changed. And then an email came right out of the blue. A company in Canada said, Victor, we want you to write guides for video games. And I thought, okay, sure, but do you pay? They sent the paycheck. Oh, yes, I definitely could do this. I bought a really comfortable chair, sat my butt down, and wrote. And for the first time in a while, I saw the hands of the clock ticking. But I was happy. It was quiet, slow, but there wasn't a single second that I didn't think, wow, I'm terrible at this. Is this how life is going to be? What's going to happen tomorrow? My thoughts instead turned to, I can't imagine doing anything else. If this was all I had to do for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, this is it. I quit my high-paying job and I became a freelance writer, specializing in the video game industry. I'm going to be honest, it's pretty tough. You have to spend hours playing a video game and wait as the internet rains comments down on you. And sometimes, as it is in the freelance industry, time can suddenly tick slowly and you realize, I've got bills to pay. This is challenging. And yet not a single day passed where I ever regretted my choice. It's not glamorous. I'm not making tons of money. I'm still not going to be able to buy a house in Melbourne anytime soon. But I can't imagine doing anything else. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And maybe it was because it came to me by chance, but I know that everyone in this room has something they'd rather do instead of sitting at a boring meeting or doing a job that they don't like. Life is long. We're going to live to about 100 or so. How you want to spend it, it's up to you. But once you find something that you want to do, and you stick with it, and you love it, you'll finally start to feel that nice meaning of life. Find something you want to do for 24/7. Thank you.
We'll have 1 minute silence for the judges. Thank you. Please welcome our next contestant. We will do a sound and visual check before I introduce this contestant. Could you please state your name and whether you can see the timer?
Hello everyone, my name is Kur Noor and I can see the timer.
Our next contestant, Kur Noor, the King. The King, Kur Noor.
Contest chair, fellow Toastmasters and guests. One Saturday day in February 2022, my mum and a few of my aunties got together to celebrate. They were singing, they were dancing, they were wearing their traditional outfits and speaking in their mother tongue, Azande. My mum even got a few of her grandchildren, my nieces, to join them in this celebration. They were celebrating because back home where we come from, South Sudan, a king for my mum's tribe, the Azande people, had been crowned. Now, a king or a queen being crowned is a reason to celebrate for anyone, but for the Azande people, it was a bit more than a celebration. And to find out why, I'm gonna have to take you back a little bit to the early 1900s. Now, as you may know, early 1900s Africa was a place in which people from other cultures, other countries had come to Africa to learn more about what to them was a mysterious land. Some of them came just to explore, but many others came to find out what Africa had that could benefit them, their family, their country. Unfortunately, for a lot of Africans, this meant looting, enslavement, torture, and death. The Azande people knew this firsthand. Their king at the time, a man named King Budwe, was doing all he could to protect his people, to ensure that his people had a future. Now, King Budwe, his name in Pazande means to take out a person's insides, was a man who didn't mind people hearing his name and feeling a bit of fear. But he was also a man who was proud of his culture, passionate about his people. He was also a leader of a warrior tribe. This meant that, to his credit, he was able to fight against the invaders a little bit, fight against the Arabs, the French, the Belgian, and the British. But even though he was winning some battles, he was losing the war. On top of that, he was also having to fight against people from his own tribe, people from his own family, people who had turned when they saw what the invaders could do. What this meant, unfortunately, is that one day a British patrol came across King Budwe outside his hut, all alone. This king, this proud king, had no one with him. At this stage, there are two versions of what happened. One version states that King Budwe was able to get a firearm from one of the British soldiers, shoot, and possibly even kill one of the men. Another version states that he was taken without much of a fight and taken away. Either way, we know that on February 10, 1905, King Budwe died. And with his death came the end of a chapter for the Azande people. The British and the other invaders had no interest in the Azande people going back to their warrior ways, back to being a threat to the invaders who wanted to see what Africa could do for them. And that's what the Azande lived like for over 100 years. Now, some things did change. The British went away and gave the country, Sudan at the time, to the Arabs, who in turn tried to kill and drive out the people who were living in the south of the states, among them the Azande. But finally, in 2011, the people of Sudan were able to vote, and with that vote came a new country, South Sudan. For the first time in a while, there was peace, which gave people an opportunity to reflect on their lives, their culture, and what they wanted for the future. During that reflection, some people thought it'd be good to bring back some of the old ways.
Connection. It's our connection. It's not his. Okay. Our connection broke here in the hall.
Okay.
About a minute ago. We're just trying to reconnect.
Okay.
The contest chair will let you know where we got to with your speech, and then you'll be able to recontinue from there.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Cool, we're going to resume your speech. We'll
Okay.
do a sound check again, and I
Yeah.
will tell you what you were up to when we lost you here in the room.
Okay.
So the last phrase that I heard Kur and wrote down was, one day a British patrol came along and found the king all alone outside his house.
Yeah.
Now, before you resume your speech from that point, could you please state your name and whether you can see the timer?
Yeah. My name is Kool Noor, and I can see the timer.
Okay. Please resume your speech from that point now.
One day, British patrol came across King Budwe in front of his hut. This man who was passionate and proud about his culture was all alone now. There are two versions of what happened next. One version, King Budwe was able to get a firearm from one of the soldiers, shoot, and even kill one of them. In another version, the soldiers were able to take King Budwe away without much problem. Either way, we know that he was put in a cell, and on February the 10th, 1905, King Budwe died. And with his death came the end of a chapter for the Azande people. The British and the other invaders had no interest in letting the Azande people, the warrior tribe, go back to their warrior ways and be a threat to them. So if there were any hints of people looking to challenge the invaders, that was swiftly dealt with. And the Azande people lived that way for well over 100 years. Now, in that 100 years, some things did change. The British went away and essentially gave Sudan to the Arabs, who in turn tried to either kill or drive out the people living in the south. Finally, in 2011, the people of Sudan were able to vote, and with that vote came a new country, South Sudan. With that new country came a chance for some peace, a chance for people to reflect them, their lives, their culture. Around this time, members of the Azande people were thinking of how they could bring back aspects of their culture, make them proud people again. One of the thoughts they had was to bring back the monarchy. It took some time as there were people who needed to be convinced into it, but luckily they were able to agree that this should be done. And one of the good things about the Azande people is that, like a lot of African tribes, they keep track of who is your family. So when that time came for a person to be crowned as king, they were able to choose the great-grandson of King Budwe, a man whose name is Ataroba. That name in Pazande is fitting because it means someone who was gone but now has come back again. And with the crowning of this king in February 2022, there is hope that he will have some aspects of his great-grandfather. He will be a person who was proud of his culture, passionate about helping his people grow, become strong once again. He does have some challenges, as the war that was in Sudan drove out a lot of people, which is part of the reason why my family is in Australia. Other Sunday went to USA and Europe. But King Ataroba has reached out, has made an attempt to reach out to the people in his kingdom, try to make us one again, try to set us on a path which hopefully will be a new and positive chapter for the Azande people. Thank you, Contest Chair.
Thank you, Kur. We'll now have 1 minute silence for the judges. Thank you, Time. Please welcome our next contestant. We will do a sound and visual check before the introduction. Next contestant, can you please state your name and whether you can see the timer?
My name's Paul Hollander. I can't see the timer. Can you spotlight me? See if we can spotlight, because I can't see the timer here on my.
The timer should be in the top left-hand corner for you.
No, it's not. Let me just. All I can see is myself. I'm up in the right-hand corner. Myself. So let's see what I can do here. No.
Speak of you, Paul.
Yeah, I'm just up in the right-hand corner. I don't see anything else. And I'm just let's have a look. All I see now, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, all I can see now is the green, the timer, but I can't see myself. So I need to spotlight myself. I can't do that. Let's have a look. Let's see what's happening.
Take yourself off being seen with the speaker, so you have to go into the settings. I think. Yeah.
I'm not seeing anything at all now. Let's have a look. I've just gone back to Zoom. I just got a white in front of me, just Zoom. Shall I disconnect and reconnect? I can see you, Janine. I can't. Let me just hold it.
Spotlight the timer now.
No, I can't. I can see the time. I can't see my. Let's have a look. Sorry about this, guys. I can't. I can see myself now. That's about that up in the right-hand corner. But it's a very. Sorry, I just need to.
You have gallery.
Let's go to gallery. Sorry. Show video.
Can you see the timer?
No, I can't see the timer now. Sorry. I just stop. Let's choose the video filter. I'm hearing you, Janine. I can hear you with intermittent voice. I can't hear much of you. I've only can see myself. I can't see the timer. So
Paul, are you on a phone or a laptop?
I'm on the laptop.
Are you sure you're in speaker view? Because if you're in speaker view, you should see what we see, which is
Speaker view.
things highlighted.
Oh, is it? Well, before the last contestant, I was able to, after that problem there, then I disappeared and I've had to relocate myself now. So all you can see me, you can see me, I can see myself, but I can't see anything else. I just, let's have a look what I can, let me just, just bear with me. Okay. Hold it, guys. Good. Hold it. That's it.
Well, let's try that again.
Okay. Start again.
Could you state your name and whether you can see the timer?
Yes, I can see the timer. Yep. Yes, okay. My name's Paul Hollander.
Okay, I'm going to introduce you now, Paul, and then you will start.
Okay.
Our next contestant, Paul Hollander. It is never too late, a true story. It is never too late, a true story. Paul Hollander.
It is never too late. Let's do that again, shall we? It is never too late to start a new beginning. Can there be forgiveness and acceptance without love? Can there be love without forgiveness and acceptance? Contest chair, I shall answer these questions. Ladies and gentlemen, imagine this. The year is 2004. There's a glorious spring morning outside. I love spring mornings. There's a fragrance of Mother Nature that I can smell. And in the trees, the kookaburras are laughing. And above you, there is an open blue sky peppered with white fluffy clouds with outpourings of sunshine coming down. You walk with spring in your step towards the mailbox. And in front of you, wow, there's a kaleidoscope of iridescent butterflies swooning between the sunshine and the shadows. I open the mailbox. Yay, there's a letter from Dad. He's remembered my birthday. Paul, you are not my biological son. My knees fold. In a few days, I'm in a cardiac thoracic unit suffering a rapidly regular heartbeat that necessitates shock treatment to the heart. My heart returns to normal sinus rhythm. Yay! Whilst in hospital, there are a few things that I do to aid my recovery. I pondered my belief that we choose our parents before conception, and I believe that to this day. I read the book by Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now. Fantastic book. And in particular about the pain body. There, Tolle espouses the virtues of forgiveness and acceptance as a means of setting you free. I embellish and love all these virtues to this day, but I must confess, there are some people I have problem forgiving and accepting. Narrative therapy, one of my favorites. I'd like to share with you one of the poems that I wrote. Forgiveness and acceptance are like dormant seeds waiting for the light of day to set you free. Ladies and gentlemen, I ask you, have you got any dormant seeds waiting for the light of day to set you free? I never believed my father's allegations. Mummy suggested a DNA test. Daddy agreed. It proved I was indeed his biological son. I never had any doubts whatsoever. Fast forward now to the year 2021. I receive a letter from Father, a letter of reconciliation. What does he want now? It's been 17 years. I have my doubts. But what comes to my rescue is my belief in forgiveness and acceptance. And I thank heavens it did. Why? And I love this part. Because Father and I had 5 remarkable months together before he died in 2022. He was 92 years of age. Yes, I cried when he died. Father made it patently clear upon his death. No funeral service, no flowers, no music, no memorial representing my existence. Do what you want with my ashes, throw them over the hedge, all I care. I like to share with you, no, I want to share with you 2 poignant conversations that I had with my father. The first one went something like this. Dad, why did you deny yourself? medical and surgical procedures that would have enhanced the last 10 years of your life. And this was Father's reply. I neglected myself like I neglected my 4 children, and there is no bloody excuse. Father's toxic and manipulative behavior severely wounded my mother, my siblings, and myself. I ask of myself, as I ask you, the audience, few questions. Put yourself in my father's shoes. Would you have continued self-loathing and punishing yourself? Or would you have sought self-forgiveness and the forgiveness of others to move on in your life? One of the last conversations that I had with my father pierced my heart with love, compassion, and helped to galvanize my belief in forgiveness and acceptance. And this part of the speech I adore. Paul, my son, life and death are one, and they both finish with a new beginning, very much like the seed. And son, I'm genuinely sorry, because our beginning started late. Is it ever too late, Paul? Is it? No, it is never too late to start a new beginning. Contest chair.
I am rich. I am filthy rich. Because I got a rich inheritance from my nan and pop. Contest chair, fellow Toastmasters and visitors. You knew when you arrived at Nan and Pop's place, you could smell it. Or rather, you could smell Nan's baking. Nan was forever baking for the CWA, the Hospital Auxiliary, the Lions Club. We'd run inside, and there would be Nan in the kitchen. 5'6", silver ponytail, sapphire blue eyes, a baking apron, a smudge of flour on her cheek. We'd give her a cuddle. You know those safe and secure cuddles that only Nans can give. And while I was waiting for my brother and sister to have their cuddle, I'd turn around and grab a biscuit off the bench. Race out the back door. Pop, Pop. But we knew where Pop was. He was in his beloved veggie garden. Now, Pop, he was 5'2", and that was across his shoulders. He was 6'4", a mop of black hair and big brown eyes. His mates called him Bear. But it was never a grumpy bear, because he always had a smile on his cheek, just in the corner there, even when us kids were being naughty. I'd race down the pathway and leap into his arms. In a single moment, I'd be on his shoulders, my little brother in one arm and a little sister in his other arm. He'd walk us around his magnificent vegetable garden. He'd show us what he'd planted. He'd show us what was growing. He'd show us what was ripe to pick. My favourite was his snow peas, a beautiful crunch, crisp crunch, and a sweetness. He'd even let me put a couple of extras in my pocket. We loved Pop. One day I said to Pop, "Why do you grow such a magnificent garden?" He smiled. He looked at me and he said, "Young fella," that's what he called me, "young fella, you've got to remember, if you want anything to grow, you've got to feed it. You've got to water it. And you've got to love it." His garden certainly showed that. Dad's work took us away. For 2 years, we didn't see Nan and Pop. I remember the day we turned back up. We opened the car door. We could still smell Nan's baking. We raced in the kitchen. There was Nan, 5'6", silver ponytail, sapphire blue eyes, baking apron, smidge of flour just on her cheek. We gave her the same safe, secure cuddle that you'd always got from Nan. Checked out her baking again, stood top rate. Raced out the back door, Pop, Pop. But there, in the backyard, was a grey-haired, frail, old man. I stopped that suddenly. I didn't recognise who was there. My little brother ran in the back of me and my little sister in the back of him. We looked at this man. He had a vaguely familiar smile to him. We went back inside and said, "Nan, where's Pop?" My little sister said, "Did you give him a hot wash?" And he shrunk in the wash like Dad did my new jumper. Nan explained that Pop had cancer. I went back out the yard, gave Pop a quick cuddle, held his hand and walked him around his not so magnificent looking garden. And we finally arrived to where he would plant his giant pumpkins. And I looked up at Nan, I looked up at Pop and said, "Pop, why don't we grow this pumpkins together?" He said, "Young fella, do you remember how?" "Yes, Pop. We've got to feed them. We've got to water them. And we've got to love them." And that spring, over into the summer, over through the autumn, that's exactly what we did. And you know what? At the harvest time, we took them down the showground and he won the biggest pumpkin again. 10 years in a row. A record that's still to be beaten. He was so proud. 3 days later, Pop passed away. Everyone was there at the wake. The football club, the fire brigade, the Rotary Club, they were all there. The whole community was there. And over the wake, there was food everywhere. Sandwiches, biscuits, cakes. The men were drinking beer. Everyone was telling stories about how fantastic Pop was and what he'd done for them and their group. And at one stage, I saw Nan sitting on her own. And I walked up to her and said, "Nan, how are you?" She looked at me. She smiled. She actually smiled. And she said, young fella, listen with your eyes. Pop would be so proud. Pop's favourite saying. Got to feed him. Got to water him. And you've got to love him. It took me some time later to realise that Pop's saying applied equally to growing plants as what it did to growing people and organisations and a community. And that is how you leave a rich inheritance. Contest chair.
We'll now have a minute of silence for the judges. Thank you, timer. Please welcome the next contestant. We'll do a sound and visual check before I introduce him. State your name and whether you can see the timer.
My name is Sean Wirricone. Can you hear me from the back?
I can see the timer.
Our next contestant, Sean Wirricone, True Wealth. True Wealth, Sean Wirricone.
Money, 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 money in a rich man's world. Money, money, money in a rich man's world. Well, now that I got your attention with my bad singing, put your hands up if you want true wealth. What does true wealth mean to you? What does true wealth mean to you? A few years ago, I had the fortune of meeting Martin, one of the wealthiest people in my city. I was invited to his house for a business meeting. I was awestruck by the sheer opulence of his mansion, and I conveyed this to him at the end of our meeting. He smiled, leaned over. Do you want a small tour? Small? There was nothing small about this place. Of course, I said, yes, please. As we walked down that grand corridor adorned with exquisite artwork, I marveled how beautiful his house was. A broad beaming smile swept across his face, and he told me a little story. He told me that ever since he was a young boy, he had always dreamt of not just living in, but owning such a magnificent house. When I was a young boy, I just dreamt of playing cricket. Guess which one of us had the more ambitious dreams? He went on to tell me that this dream had been his driving passion, taking him from one achievement to the next. But then something seemed to change. It was as if ominous clouds had been cast over his demeanor. I feel like this house is mocking me, daunting me. The size of this place just amplifies how lonely I feel here. by myself. I was not expecting that. I stood there frozen like one of his many statues. The tour would continue and we reached the dining hall. Now this was fit for a state banquet. A series of intricately crafted candelabra stood at attention along the full length of that table. Martin, you must have some sumptuous feasts here. Oh yes, there used to be a time. And then he drifted off, as if he was oblivious to the fact that he was no longer vocalizing his thoughts. I watched him reminisce. He pulled up his top and he showed me this medical bag, a whole plethora of tubing connected to him. It's been a long time since I had an appetite. Everything I eat tastes like cardboard. The best lobster in the world, cardboard. This time I managed a sympathetic nod. The tour would continue and we reached the gym and indoor swimming pool. This was something to behold. I've got the best personal trainer in the whole city, the best equipment, the best doctors, specialists, the whole lot of them. But none of them can give me back my health. I just wish I had my health. I felt so sorry. Do you know how old Martin was? Any guesses? No. He was just 50 years old. Only 50 years old. This was an enormous wake-up call for me. You see, the previous 3 years, I had been working over 15 hours every single day, 7 days a week, because my dreams, my ambitions had changed. I was no longer that boy who dreamt of playing cricket. I wanted to be wealthy, like Martin. Until I met Martin. Then it dawned on me, what is true wealth? You see, money can buy that luxurious mansion, but is it a home without family? With money, you can get the most extensive security systems, but can you buy peace of mind? With money, you can buy a giant luxurious bed, but can you buy a good night's sleep? Money will attract fame and followers. Can you buy true loved ones? With money, indeed, you can buy the most decadent of foods. But what good is that if you have no appetite? Money will get you access to the finest healthcare in the world. But can you buy back your health? With money, you can buy the most exquisite timepieces. But can you buy even 1 second of time? What does true wealth mean to you? Is it the many things you bought, the things you still aspire to buy? If we take a moment to reflect, aren't we all already abundantly wealthy with life's many precious gifts? How valuable is it for you to have the time to read a book to your children at night, tuck them into bed? How valuable is it for you to be able to look after your elderly parents, unrushed and comfort them? How valuable is it for all of us to have lifelong friends, share laughter and reminisce? Isn't this true wealth? Fellow Toastmasters, friends, appreciate, enjoy, embrace the true wealth in your life.
Thank you, Sean. We will now have a minute's silence for the judges. Thank you, timer. Please welcome our next contestant. We will do a sound and visual check before the introduction. Next contestant, please state your name and whether you can see the timer.
Marlene, and I can see the timer.
Our next contestant, Marlene Sinclair, find your light. Find your light. Marlene Sinclair.
Floating on the warm, crystal clear water of the Great Barrier Reef. Those backpackers were boisterous and exuberant, and a little bit in awe of my daughter, Carly, the dive master. With her out there, fun-loving personality, it was a blast to watch her pranks in action. Pranks like a whole spoonful of Vegemite. Ooh, have you tasted it? The misdemeanors on the boat. On that boat, you had to follow the rules. Who wants to go on a night dive? Called Carly. I looked around. Night dive, it was getting dark. The water was a sea of black ink. The darker it got, the more menacing it became. Okay, get your gear on. I'm seeing the nervous looks of the backpackers as they lined up. Boris was counting off. Stick with your buddy. Stay with the group. Keep the leader in sight. I remembered the shark I'd seen that morning. It was scary. Down into that dark water. It was amazing. I thought I'd been dropped into an old black and white movie and could see the skin divers moving in front of me. Did I say it was dark? How do you see underwater? With a torch, of course. I felt like Darth Vader. And the light went right to the surface. It was such fun. We finished the dive and up to the surface. I popped up and looked around. What? No, Boris. We were missing one. Oh no, an underwater tragedy. Sheer panic. All hell broke loose. I could see the headlines. Diver lost on Barrier Reef. Police investigating. Have you ever lost someone? It's a horrible feeling, isn't it? Meanwhile, down there in that dark water, daughter Carly was bringing another group along, and it was 4 experienced divers. She said later, I just kept counting heads. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Where did he come from? Rigid, stuck on the bottom in the dark, terrified. She could see the whites of his eyes. She reached over and looked at his tank. Yes, we had air. She shone the torch on herself. It's me, Carly. Then on him. Feet first. What? Socks in fins. Socks in fins. Who wears their sock in their fins? Boris from Israel, of course. She motioned to him. We're going up. You lot, stay down. Have a look around. Panicking up there on the boat, I could see a light coming in the dark water. Up popped Carly, up popped Boris. Oh, the relief was palpable. We had Boris. Yes. Oh. It's so good when you have Boris up there with you. The poor thing was terrified first. However, have you ever lost somebody? Have you? I lost my daughter, Carly. Carly was murdered by her partner, and I dropped into the deepest, darkest depths. And for a long time, I was lost in the dark. Have you ever lost somebody you love? Or been in a relationship breakup, maybe? Or been slammed into the depths of depression? Sometimes it's the tiniest thing. So if you're in the dark, you need a light. Now that might sound trite, might sound cliched, but it really is that simple. Find your light, like Boris found Carly, if you need to be dragged out of these things. It was only when I focused on Carly's light that I was no longer lost in the dark. Carly was such a wonderful woman. She'd want me to go on living with fun and laughter and my own pranks. Back on the boat that night, we're taking our gear off, and I looked at Carly. She was laughing. I thought, no doubt, cooking up something. Don't leave your buddy. Keep the pack inside and stay with the pack. Yeah. Wouldn't be Vegemite this time. She stood back up at the mast and said very loudly, Boris, time to swim around the boat. Stark naked. Now when I think of Carly, I think of Boris's lily white bottom as he swam around the boat. Find your light. Find your Carly. How can I ever be lost in the dark with a daughter like that?
We'll now have silence until the judges have completed their ballots.
You need to be called to go and stand. Is your volume?
Thank you, everybody. The Chief Judge and the counters have now left the room. So we can congratulate our contestants, but I ask the room contestants.
That's what it was.
Please join me in giving a very big congratulatory clap for our. Do you know, in District 73, there are 7 divisions. I think there are 28 areas and more than 1,500 Toastmasters. And 7 of those Toastmasters made it to the District 73 International Speech Contest.
Yep.
Terrific achievement, and I would like to present them each with a certificate of participation. The first one is for you, Jodie. So congratulations. The second one is for Victor. Four. Then we go. Paul. Charles. Congratulations. Is that all the photos that we need to take?
One more.
There's always one more, isn't there?
There are screenshots taken as well, so there are heaps of photos.
Okay, lovely.
Thank you.
While the judges are out of the room, we'll just have a brief contestant interview until they come back, and I'll ask each contestant a question in turn. It is important that they each speak equally, so we'll go through the 7 of them in turn. Starting with Jodie. Jodie, can you please tell us which club you're representing today and how many years you've been a Toastmaster?
Yes, good question. I'm representing Flinders Lane. Woo, Flinders Lane. And I've been a Toastmaster since 2019. Yes. So however long that is now, but it's about 4, so yes.
Thank you, Jodie. And Victor, which club are you representing today and how long have you been a Toastmaster?
I am representing City Centre Toastmasters. I've been a Toastmaster since 2015, but I did take a break between COVID, and I only came back at the start of this year or late last year.
Thank you, Victor. Paul, which club are you representing today and how long have you been a Toastmaster?
I'm representing Quintessence and I've been with Toastmasters for 3 years now.
Representing today and how long have you been a Toastmaster? Paul?
Oh, okay. I'm representing, I didn't hear you. It's cutting in and out. I'm representing Epping Toastmasters, and I've been Toastmaster for about 6 years now and still thoroughly enjoying it.
Which club are you representing?
So I'm representing Wangaratta up in the northeastern Victoria. I've been a member of Wang Toastmasters for about 6 years.
Well done. Done. Which club?
I'm from Bayside Toastmasters. Toastmasters all 7 years.
Representing today.
Well, I'm in 5 clubs. I'm representing them all, but I am representing Croydon Yarra Valley. And I've been in Toastmasters for 31 years. So there's life in the old girl yet.
And now I'd like to go back up the line and I'm going to ask you the question, what have you learnt in preparing for this contest? Marlene.
What have I learnt? Lots of things that you lean on your wonderful friends for advice, and they're always forthcoming. Thank you, everybody.
What have you learnt in preparing?
I have learned that people will lend you their watch if you ask politely. So thank you to the 7 people who lent me their watch. You didn't know which one was being featured in today's video.
What have you learnt in preparing for the contest?
That everyone is prepared, in our club, everyone is prepared to give some advice in a constructive way. Because our club, and like every other Toastmasters club, is about growing people. And that's been great to see that support, particularly from my wife, who has allowed me to go and have the meetings and conversations with people. She's up the back.
Paul, what have you learnt in preparing for this contest?
The lovely word reciprocation, not only from my club, but the clubs close by. And to me, that is so important in life, to reciprocate something. It's a beautiful word and it comes from beautiful people as well. So that's what I hold today. Thank you.
Well, the same question to you. What have you learnt in preparing for the contest?
What have I learned? I learned a bit more about my culture. I did know most of the things I spoke about, but in preparing the speech, I was able to put all those things into a timeline and get more of a sense of how people felt during that time.
I'm going to take a bit of a different spin on this. I don't know what I've learned yet, because I think it's nice to say I've learned something, but I don't know if it's going to work or if it'll pay off until after I see how it's done. And then I refine, and then I improve, and then I keep testing. That's what we learn at Toastmasters. We continually see how it goes, but I don't know how it is until after the visit.
Okay. And Jodie, what have you learnt in preparing for the contest?
I mean, every single thing that everyone has said so far, and really the power of storytelling has been a really big lesson that I've deepened along this journey. You know, how powerful every single person's stories are and how we all have stories worth hearing and listening to and appreciating. And I've learned so much more about my story too, my culture, my background, my struggles, strengths. So I think storytelling is one of the hearts of what makes Toastmasters so powerful. So yeah, storytelling has been amazing to learn more and more of.
Thank you, Jodie. And now, reflecting that our audience is a mixture of experienced Toastmasters and newer Toastmasters, Jodie, what advice would you have for Toastmasters who want to improve their speech giving skills?
Well, you know, going off the storytelling element, it's much easier to practice public speaking when we have stories that we know well. And it's really great to be able to use stories that we know well and practice telling them to refine that, because stories can give us a lot of confidence And it's easier to remember too, according to psychology. So I would say for everyone in the audience, really know your stories, your journeys in your life, your struggles, your learnings, and start to learn other people's stories and gather other people's stories and ideas as well. And then use storytelling as the basis to develop all the other skills, like, body language and vocal variety and all those things. The heart of it is telling really meaningful stories.
Victor, have you got something to add about advice for Toastmasters?
I would say, what does public speaking mean to you? And this is probably more relevant for the newer members and maybe some of the more experienced members who are facing a plateau. Because some of the things that I've seen over, at least with City Center Toastmasters and a few other clubs, is a lot of people will join, they'll get excited, but then they start to peak, or as I said earlier, they'll plateau. And the key to breaking that plateau is just realizing, what is public speaking to you? Why do you want to get better in the first place? Because what it means to you will determine if you're going to use props, if you're going to start using vocal variety, if you're actually going to wake up the next day and think, I've got to practice for this. Having that purpose is going to be key to just evolving your speech and developing your own style.
Thank you, Victor. Poor, I'm throwing to you now. What advice would you have for Toastmasters?
The advice I'd have is that learning to speak and speak well, it's not a process that ever stops. There's always something new to learn. And this has happened to me. There's been times where I've got feedback, I've worked on it, but then I've picked up something else. So it's a never ending process.
Completely, it's lifelong learning, isn't it? We're always continuing to learn. Thank you. Paul, your turn. Have you any advice for our Toastmasters here?
Explore your inner self and then externalize it on a stage or amongst other friends. And it's that discovery and rediscovering, and what I refer to as reconception. You really get to know yourself, and you are able to pull things from the past, look at them, learn by them, and other people can learn as well. And once again, this word reciprocation, because it's amazing how each and every one of us goes through this journey of ups and downs, from the emotional, psychological, spiritual, and social. Toastmasters offers you the opportunity to be amongst friends who are prepared to listen and be not judgmental. Thank you, Toastmasters.
Well,
I think for a new person, even for an experienced person, experiment, play with it, watch other speakers. I've been fortunate enough that I've got a great mentor in our club, and I've watched him give speeches. And there's always something new to learn, a new technique, a new way to make an impression. Play with it. You're in a safe environment.
thank you. About our clubs, that they are a safe environment. Sean, do you have anything to add about advice for our Toastmasters?
I think don't be afraid to be yourself. You join Toastmasters and you find a wealth of experience, the superstars, the megastars, the Jodie Donches, the Bharat Sangakkars, so many people in this room, and you go, wow, how can I, even be in the same room with, so many wonderful people. But take a chance and just be yourself, and that's all you can do.
The last one today, Marlene.
All I would say is put your hand up for everything when they say, rightio, you're in the table topics contest, go in it. Just do that. We're a big family. And if everybody came to conferences like this, they'd have a new look at it. So I think just stick with your group and just go with it.
Wonderful. thank you for coming up here for our contestant interviews. I'd now ask you to take a seat. Chief Judge has returned. The Chief Judge has told me that there were no disqualifications. I will now announce the results. Can you give me a drum roll, please? In third place, please congratulate Victor Tan.
You say that, I can't hear it.
Congratulations, Victor.
Graham.
Could I have another drum roll? Our second place winner today is Marlene Sinclair. To represent District 73 at the International Speech Contest Region Quarterfinals. Congratulating District 73's 2023 first place winner. Did we do the drum roll or not? And the winner is Charles Halloran.